Anthropic is, as far as I can tell, at the very least catching up to OpenAI. The performance of Claude 3 Opus seems to be pretty good. It's certainly exceeding ChatGPT in many benchmarks. Now, of course, there is still a lot of room for improvement on both sides. And also, having been with OpenAI, I don't mean like working for OpenAI, but using OpenAI since GPT-2, every new iteration basically represents a full paradigm shift. The difference between GPT-2 and GPT-3, night and day, not even really the same kind of technology. Likewise, GPT-3 to GPT-4, fundamental paradigm shift in terms of capabilities. So I suspect OpenAI is working really hard on GPT-5. I know that a while back, Sam Altman said they weren't training it and they weren't going to be starting anytime soon. More recently, it seems like they're just kind of tacitly saying like, yeah, GPT-5 is being trained. They're still being quiet about it, which is understandable. But to be fair, Anthropic was really quiet about Claude 3. It just kind of dropped. And anyways, so that's a little bit of background. So I fully expect that when GPT-5 drops, which it could be as early as this summer, according to some rumors and leaks, it will also be a fundamental paradigm shift in terms of capabilities. Now, at the same time, what I wanted to talk about today was a fundamentally different approach that Anthropic uses for safety and alignment. So one example is RLHF, which I think it's pretty widely accepted by now that RLHF, reinforcement learning with human feedback, is good for some things, but it is very limited. Even ChatGPT was trained with a combination of RLHF, constitutional AI, and probably a whole bunch of other stuff that is not made public yet. Now, at the same time, Anthropic with Claude was constitutional AI first. And I've been reading, thanks to my Patreon supporters, I've been reading the blog posts that Anthropic has posted about safety. Now, I'm not going to explain the details to you. If you want to go read it, I definitely recommend it. Their blog posts are pretty digestible, and they also have associated papers. But the gist of it is, one of the things that Anthropic has been paying attention to is the idea of deception, or MESA optimizers. So they've been doing research on sleeper agents. So basically, what if you accidentally train in ulterior motives or agendas into a model, and they learn to be deceptive? And then they pursue those goals kind of in the background. And their most recent blog post was about how to reveal some of these deceptive practices that may or may not be baked into those models. Now, you could call that a MESA optimizer, where, the outward behavior of the model says one thing, but it has a hidden agenda or something else along those lines. So that is all good and fun, and I'm glad that research is being done. But the point of today's video was I wanted to talk about why I feel like Anthropic's strategy is just superior overall. And the difference is down to philosophy. So in philosophy, there's several kind of types of ethical frameworks, but I want to talk about deontological frameworks and teleological frameworks. But first I have to pause it because I'm about to go up a steep hill and I'm going to be out of breath for a minute. So I'll be right back. Whew. So here's the top of the hill that I'm climbing. It's about 200 feet of climb. The river's down there. Anyways, let me catch my breath and then I'll finish telling you about Anthropic. Okay, so where were we? Deontology and teleology. So deontological ethics is about the agent. It's about the virtues that an agent or an actor, whether it's a person or a machine or whatever, even a company or a nation, it's about the virtues that agent embodies, or duties. So deontological ethics are basically duty-based ethics. Whereas teleological ethics are about outcomes. It's about what's outside of the agent and the future and the long-term result of a behavior or action or decision. So, most AI is trained around teleological outcomes. what is it that you're trying to optimize for? You're trying to maximize something or minimize something. So for instance, Elon Musk and Grok, with their maximum truth-seeking AI, that is a teleological outcome that they're looking for, where the belief, the presumption, is that the truth is an absolute that is out there outside of the agent, and the agent is trying to get to that. So you can think of it as like a mouse navigating a maze, trying to find the truth. Likewise, ChatGPT and most other models are trying to optimize for, mathematically, they're all trying to optimize for predict the next token, but there's many, many layers of optimizations stacked on top of that to make them useful. But the idea is, and this is where paperclip maximizer comes in, for instance. Maximizing paperclips is a teleological thought experiment where the ultimate goal of the machine is to maximize the number of paperclips in the universe. Okay, great. Now the thing is, that is only one way of looking at objectives. That is only one way to look at optimizations. Another way is to look at optimizing for values or virtues. That is deontological ethics. And this is where Anthropic fundamentally stands out amongst every other AI company that I know of. And that is because their fundamental assumption is not about teleological goals, it is about deontological goals. And this is the HHH framework, the helpful, honest, and harmless model that they're using in their constitutional AI. So basically what these models are trying to do is optimize for those virtues. So one advantage that deontological ethics has over teleological ethics, and by the way, both of them have trade-offs and exceptions, but deontological ethics are superior in that it is all about the agent. It places the decision, the locus of control, on the agent itself, where it is, its ego, or whatever you want to call it, its perception of self, its agent model, and makes decisions based on behaviors right now, without necessarily trying to anticipate the long-term outcomes. So in essence, Anthropic's core assertion is that whatever else is true, whatever the long-term outcomes are, the agent, the AI, the model, should always try and abide by these virtues, these virtuous ethics of being honest, helpful, and harmless. And so this is a fundamentally different disposition because you can still mathematically optimize for those things, but most people don't get it. And the reason that most people don't get it is because when you think of like the paperclip maximizer, it's always out there. It's always outside of the agent and in the future, rather than optimizing for internal metrics or internal values. And this is where I think that Anthropic's safety scheme is going to prove to be superior in many ways, not perfect. And one thing to point out, one of the flaws of deontological ethics is that if you have the wrong virtue structure, you can easily justify doing horrible things, because then you might say, well, I don't really care about the ends or the consequences. I'm making the best decision right now. Whereas teleological ethics, one of the flaws is it's very difficult to anticipate outcomes. So the ideal framework does a little bit of both. But also this is delving deep into philosophy and ethics, which unfortunately a lot of tech people don't really put much stock in. Fortunately, I do see more and more people talking about these kinds of things out there in the world. But taking a step back, the reason I wanted to make this video is just to point out that Anthropic really does kind of stand alone in placing the agent first. It's almost, so this is me guessing, this is pure speculation, but my interpretation is that maybe this is why the founders of Anthropic left OpenAI, is because they realized that there was a fundamental disconnect between the way that Ilya and Sam wanted to train the models, basically just treating it like an inert tool. And so far, I haven't seen anything to suggest otherwise. It seems like OpenAI still just wants to treat these like any other computer, any other inert tool. But the folks at Anthropic realized very early on, we are creating something that is intrinsically agentic. And I realized this very early on in my own work, when you create something that can think, that can make its own decisions, the moral framework almost has to come first. Because when you can think about anything, when you can choose any set of behaviors or actions, how do you choose what to do? Any decision framework has to start with morality, with philosophy, with ethics. And it also has to start with the agent. And so this agent-first approach, this deontological approach, I think, one, is unique out there, but also I think it's going to prove to be superior in many ways. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Also, this is 4K, but it's less stable. So let me know how it looks as well. Yes, because I fiddled with some settings on my camera. Anyways, cheers. Thanks for watching. Bye.